Hi, in this video we're going to be looking at part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. Now in a recent video we looked at a type of question or a style of question that can come up in this part of the test, and I really think this is the best way to look at it, thinking about the styles of question or the types of question that come up rather than focusing on the topics. There are hundreds of topics that could come up, and there's no way to predict what topic is going to come up in the test. But we do know the styles of questions that the examiners like to ask. And these styles of questions are really looking for you to show certain skills in English, rather than having a really deep knowledge of a topic. That really isn't necessary. We know in part 3 you're going to have to be giving your opinion, which means there's no right or wrong answer. There's just good, clear answers and bad answers that are unclear. Now, in a previous video, like I said, we looked at one style of question, which was getting you to compare. And this is one skill that they're kind of wanting to see you show. But another style of question is a question that's asking you to predict. So we're going to be looking at these types of question in this video. I'm going to show you some examples of these part 3 questions that will be getting you to show this skill, the skill of predicting. That's what the examiner is interested in here. We're going to be looking at maybe 3 questions I'll show you first, and then I'll show you a 4th question and give you a sample answer that is showing off this skill. But it's something that's definitely worth preparing for, just like the skill of comparing that we looked at in the last video on part 3. You need to be kind of improving your skill of being able to predict as well. So we've got these 2 different styles of question, comparing in the previous video and predicting in this video. So if I just show you some part 3 questions that kind of encourage the speaker to use the skill of predicting. So this first one, if you have a look at this, it says, as the technology for home viewing improves, do you think people will stop going to the cinema in future? Now, you can see with this question, the focus is the future. We can see that, well, from the wording of the question at the end, it says in future, but also we can see with the verb tenses. Do you think people will stop going to the cinema? So you can see that key word there, will. So you have to be listening out for that. When you listen to a question and you hear the word will, well, you know they're looking for you to show that you can predict the future. And that's what this question is requiring you to do. You've got to focus your answer on the future and also really show that you're not too sure about it, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future, but this is your opinion, your prediction on what is going to happen. Another example of this style of question is this one. It says, do you believe that computers will ever replace human teachers? So again, the topic changes. The first topic was all about cinema and technology, but this next question is about computers and education, teaching. That is the topic of this question, but you can see it's the same kind of style. Do you believe that computers will ever replace human teachers? So you can see here the word will again, which shows you that it's the future. The word ever afterwards before the verb as well, which means it's kind of more limitless in terms of the future. Will ever replace human teachers. So of course, in your answer to this style of question, again, you've got to make a guess about the future. And that's what the examiner is really looking for, that you can talk about the future effectively and also show that you're predicting. Let's look at one last question before we move to the question where I've got a sample answer for you to look at. This last one here, again, we can see the same style. Do you think the hobbies people have will be different in the future. So again, it's very clear that this question is asking you to predict because of that phrase at the end of the question, in the future, makes it very clear. But also you can see that keyword again, will. Okay, it shows you that this is a question that's asking you about the future and you need to predict. Again, the topic changes. We've got the topic of hobbies here. So you can see there's a wide variety of types of topics that can come up, but we've always got one or two of these styles of question that ask you to predict the future. And if you practice that skill of being able to predict and use the type of words and grammar you have to use to give an effective answer, then you will be prepared for whatever comes up in the test. Now, of course, you might be shocked by a topic, but you won't be shocked by that type of question that's asking you to predict the future. Now let's look at a final question, and then I'll show you a sample answer that kind of shows off the skills that you need to be showing the examiner when you're making a prediction. So this final type, and it looks a little bit different. What types of transport do you think we will use in the future? So you can see, again, the question is focused on the future because of the phrase in the future and because of the word will. But the topic is different. The topic is about transport and the types of transport that you imagine people will use in the future. Now, if we look at an example answer for this type of question, or this exact question, we'll look at a sample answer. And when I show it to you, I want you to be really trying to think about, well, what is showing the skill of predicting? How are we showing this ability of in the answer that we're giving? So let me just read the question again and then read out the answer to you as well. So the question, what types of transport do you think we will use in the future? I'm really not sure, but there'll probably be more driverless cars and lorries. The technology exists now, and I think it'll become more widespread in the future. It could be safer and reduce the number of accidents on the road, although some people might miss the act of driving. So there we go. You can see in the answer I've given to this, I've shown off some of the keywords that I need to use to show that I'm talking about the future. Of course, I've focused on the topic, and I've shown that, I don't have a deep knowledge on the topic. In fact, you can see the start of this answer. It says, I'm not really sure. Again, signaling maybe to the examiner that, well, I'm predicting. I can't be sure about this because it's the future. And then after that, you can see I use the word but to show, well, I'm going to tell you anyway what I think because you've asked me to predict. And then, look here, we say they'll. There'll probably be more driverless cars and lorries. So really here, the focus is the word there and will. They'll. We're making a contraction there to show off some good pronunciation, but basically it's their will. We're using the word will and also followed by the word probably, again, to show we're not 100% sure, but we're using these words to show we're making a prediction. And again, I give the answer to that. Okay, I have to come up with some kind of idea for this, which some people do struggle with, but of course, the examiner is not so much focused on that, but they're focused on the ability to predict. There's no right or wrong answer here. Here we've gone for more driverless cars and lorries. That's the type of transport that I think we're going to have more of in the future. Again, you can see the way we're really kind of comparing here as well, because you can see the word more, and we're really thinking of how it's going to be different from now. So we are going to use those comparatives as well, which shows you how important this is to be able to do that in part 3 of the IELTS speaking test. Now, the second sentence of this answer just goes on to explain it a bit more, but you can see the way we're focusing on the future. the technology exists now. Well, so we're saying at present it is here. And I think it'll become more widespread. Well, here's the key. I think shows that, again, we're not 100% sure. We're making a prediction. We're giving our opinion. But here, it'll become more widespread. So it will, right? We're showing that it is about the future, making that very clear, using the word more again, but with an adjective instead of a noun. Not more driverless cars, but it will become more widespread. So more people will be using these driverless cars. And then, again, the key phrase, in the future. That was in the question, and we're also using it in the answer, just to bring focus and show we understand we're talking about the future. We got a final sentence as well, right, which again shows off some of these skills of predicting the type of language we use. Slightly different though. You can see here we say it could be safer. Well, we're using the word could there to show that we're not sure about it. Okay, and it is a prediction. And reduce the number of accidents on the road. So again, that's just kind of topic related there. And then we've actually contrasted this, right? We've said the improvements that it could make, but also we've used the word although to contrast this with something that people might not like. Although some people might miss the act of driving, right? Might miss driving their cars. But here the key word is might. Right? The word might shows that we're talking about the future. We're not talking about something we know very well. We're making a prediction. And it's these key words that I've highlighted that you need to know how to use well when you're giving an answer. There's no point in panicking a lot about the topic you're going to get. Because we don't know. There's no way of predicting what you're going to have to talk about topic-wise in the actual test. But we do know that you're going to have to predict the future in some way. There'll always be some kind of question like this in part 3 of the test, along with a question that, like we talked about in the previous video on part 3, gets you to compare. So you can see, or hopefully you're seeing now, why the examiner is asking you these types of questions. They're not testing your deep knowledge of a topic, but they're testing your ability to show these skills. And that's what you need to focus your practice on. So of course you can take some of these questions that I've shown you here, and we've got a number of different topics that you can practice giving answers for. Okay, we've got technology for watching films, we've got computers in education, and we've also got the question about hobbies. Those are 3 different topics you've got there, but of course you could use these same question styles and replace the topics, so you can practice giving answers to questions that are asking you to predict, but talking about as many different topics as you can, just so you can get used to this style of question, because that's what is important here. So there we go. Hopefully you found that useful, and hopefully you can go away and practice this skill of being able to predict. Remember, your predictions don't have to be correct, right? There's no way for them to know this, whether it's right or wrong about the future. That doesn't matter. You're just showing off this skill, and that's what they want to hear. So there we go. If you did find this video useful, then don't forget to give it a like. And if you haven't already, remember to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any similar videos in the future. But there we go. That's the end of this video, and I'll see you again in the next one.